It's podcast day, friends. It's podcast day right now. Welcome in. Welcome, friends. Welcome here to the heyBrownBerry podcast. Are you getting tired of me telling you that I'm happy to have you here? Because I really am. I think at this point I have decided that all of the comments and conversation that come of doing this podcast are the best motivating force ever. And I am so grateful. I really am. So welcome here. Thank you for being here with me. It's New Year's Eve. It is December 31st, 2020, the very last day of the year. It's the last day of the year, and I've already decided it's going to be a good one. I'm really grateful to be a person who wakes up early quite naturally, because that tends to give me more time in the day to do what I want to do on a good day. It's not perfect. I am usually up in the 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. window. And this morning I got up and it was very quiet, of course, because not everybody in my house has that same schedule. So I had enough time to drink my coffee and sit down at the puzzle table. If I remember, I will show you a picture of the puzzle that I've been working on. And I just want to give a shout out to my friend Katie Green, because she is a big fan of puzzles and has shared the joy of it with me. I actually started the puzzle, I believe it was right around Thanksgiving time frame. I remember that my daughters were just home from school, just home from college on their break. And in the first few days that I had this puzzle out, a couple of us would sit around it for a good while and chat and work at the pieces. And when you see it, I will make an effort to put a video in. When you see it, you'll see that there are great expanses of what looks like all the same color sky and trees and the ground. It's a park scene. Because it took quite a while to kind of get the pieces filled in, it was nice for conversation. So anyway, I shared that with you because that is how I spent a good portion of my early morning today. Are any of you into puzzles? Are you a puzzler? I wasn't before now, but we have had puzzles in the house unopened for years. So glad to be getting into that. What's that? You notice I'm wearing a new accessory? This old thing? New hat joy. This is my Seer hat. I finished this hat a couple of days after starting it. I actually chose this project as my Christmas Eve cast on. So I started it on December 24th, and I believe by the 27th I was blocking it. I'm falling back in love with color work. Let's say that. I have done other color work projects, and the ones that I've done this year, most recently, I have enjoyed more than ever before. I'm not sure if it's just that I've settled into a technique and working colors with both hands that's really making it so joyful, or if it's just, a stage. Our making goes in stages, so I think I'm in a stage where color work is very appealing. It's like painting with yarn. The Seer hat is designed by my bestie Maria, She is Maria of Ninja Chickens Designs and the Ninja Chickens podcast. I'll make sure, of course, that you have access to all her information in the description box below. Are you working on any color work projects? I have some in mind. At least one colorwork sweater will need to go on my needles before too long. And I'm wearing colorwork socks. Those are my forest fruit socks. Another favorite. I think colorwork socks may also go on my needles before too long because I really enjoyed that project. I talked about it in a previous episode if you're interested in the details. So I wanted to share my hat with you and let you know that was finished, a Christmas Eve cast on that went well. I also wanted to catch you up on an Advent project. I've talked about this before as well, so if you are interested, you'll do well to just go back a couple episodes and see where I was talking about Advent projects that I had planned. Now, this Advent project was meant to be the Espensen caftan, which is a Barocco pattern designed by Cirilla Rose. And it was the perfect cast on for a set of naturally dyed mini skeins gifted to me by Adrian of the Freakish Lemon. And you can see that I got a good way into the knit. Look at those colors. What you see here in the kind of cream colored, natural colored stripes is a combination of a mill spun yarn that I had in my stash. In some places I've combined it with some naturally dyed cotton from Adrian's gift. And then the colorful stripes were all different plant and food discards that Adrian used to dye these yarns. I love the feel of this. I love knitting it. I'm working on it in some size 8 needles, my Chowgu wood needles. I have the Chowgu spins with the rotating join. Highly recommend. And I say that it was going to be the Espensen caftan because I guess I went on autopilot when making a panel of this top and ended up knitting it 5 inches too long. 5 inches. I had a measurement in my mind that I was supposed to get to, and I just barreled ahead. Initially, when I realized that, I thought, because of my gauge and the fact that it's meant to be an oversized top, this is not a problem. I'm going to keep going. Just working with the light here, friends. Working with the light. So I barreled ahead thinking this overknit is not going to be a problem. However, once I got to the neckline and knew that I would then have to do the other half of the top because it's knit from one side, then you do some shaping for the neckline, and then you knit the other side of the top. Once I got halfway, I realized that I didn't have much left in these BFL minis, these beautifully dyed BFL minis. I did have a good amount of cotton minis, but I didn't want one half of the shirt to be wool and one half mostly cotton. And I was just really loving having all of Adrian's handiwork in this one project. I didn't relish the idea of even pulling from my stash just to add other yarns. So I pulled out the neckline completely, and I've decided this is going to just be a beautifully lush rectangular wrap. And it was easy to undo some of the neck shaping and then go back again just into rectangular striping. See how drapey it is and squishy. Ugh, BFL. So up here where I'd undone the neckline, I decided I wanted to avoid some of the curling that's happening at the cast on edge because it's stockinette. So in order to avoid that for this end of the wrap, I just did a knit 3 purl 1 rib. And I'm doing that for maybe a couple inches. and then I'll cast that off. What do you think? It can work. I've already slung it around me while it was on some waste yarn. It is going to give me some nice neck and shoulder coverage. Because of the curling on this end, I am thinking about picking up the bind off stitches down here and doing another flat stitch pattern. Maybe I'll repeat this moss stitch that's currently on the side edges. I may repeat that on this edge for a few inches to keep it from curling. I think that could work. And I do have more of, reach. I do have more of Adrian's beautiful yarn to work with. Like there's this skein. I prefer when you can see the colors as close to accurate as possible. So this beautiful skein is still left. And this gorgeousness. So I have plenty of room to work with these now in this rectangular wrap scenario of just striping, which I'm really happy about. When that's done, I will make it a plan to share it with you. I'm not making the biggest deal out of this old year, new year turnover, and that's intentional. And if you are, I support that. And if you're not, I support that. I don't think any of us should put pressure on anyone else about how they should handle this particular season. However, I have kind of been in a review mode. I did a review of my works in progress the other day, and I'll actually link to that video up here, although I hope you'll hang out and watch to the end of this one. And then go over there and comment on any kind of reviewing that you're doing. So because I'm in that reflective mode and just thinking through things that have happened this year in terms of my making, I found myself scribbling away on a piece of paper last night as a form of reflection on my creative habits. That sounds loftier than I mean for it to, but just things that I've noticed about myself. I was working on something at the time, stitching away, and often as I'm doing that, the same kind of little things pop up in my head. Some of them annoy me, like about myself. And some of them, as they come to me, I think that's probably something I should address. So I was scribbling away and thought I would share this with you on the podcast. As usual, I do this in an effort to be somewhat open and also to encourage conversation and comment. So as I'm reading my own handwritten notes to you, I hope that you'll share with me if you feel any of this too, or, share your own experience as you review your creative habits. Let's see if I'll be able to read them. What I keep reaching for and don't have is what I should stock for myself. Okay, so what's behind this is sometimes I will sit down with the intention of working on a project, knit or crochet or even sewing. And instead of gathering up all the things that I will need to sit and work on that thing for a period of time, I often find myself without notions or some tool or something that I need in order to sit and work peacefully. A tape measure, scissors, something to put on the end of my needles if I need to put my work down and I want to keep stitches from sliding off. Just there are often these things that I want to sit down and just peacefully work for a stretch, and I can't because I'm hopping up to go get a thing. So in reflecting on this, what I keep reaching for and don't have is what I should stock for myself. What I would like to do is treat my making time as something intentional so that when I do decide I'm going to sit down and work on this project for a while, I will take stock of what it is I'll need while I'm working on that thing, or what I think I'll need, and have it available. And if there's something I keep reaching for, because I know this is kind of what sparked this thought, if it's something I keep reaching for and don't have, I should probably buy it or trade for it or something. Make it available. Okay. First question change from do I want it to will I use it? Okay. These are totally notes I scribbled, so they're not all, perfectly written with grammar and whatnot. What this says is when I am choosing a project, I would like to switch the first question in my head from do I want it, the project, to will I use it? I've started doing that more, and I'll be honest with you. Looking at something and considering whether or not I want to make it almost always is a very visual and visceral experience. So, oh my gosh, these photos are beautiful, or I can see myself in that sweater, or I would love to have a quilt like that. And I'm drawn in with a desire, a want. But more often lately, I'm also thinking, but will I use that? Do I need that? So the reflection there is just that I would like to accept that switch. And sometimes the answer will be yes. And I feel like that will make for a better making experience. Let's see. It takes me 10 plus minutes to settle in to a knitting session, is what I've written. Some of this feels like it may be unique to me, but you let me know. It takes me 10 minutes plus to settle into a knitting session. I have this idea that sometimes when other creative people are working, the moment they get their materials together and sit down and start, let's say stitching, knitting, that they enter this Zen peaceful zone of just being able to sink in to what's happening. I am not that person. When I sit down to knit, I am not always in a mindset of this is about to be a peaceful time and I'm just going to stitch away. And at some point, I've actually timed how long it takes before I felt like I'm present with this project and I can continue without my mind wanting to show me shiny squirrels and take me away from it. I don't even know if that's something I can improve or want to change. I'm going to leave that one as just an observation for now. Yeah. Okay, another one here says, I am heavily influenced by what I am watching or listening to. True story. I tend to listen to podcasts, watch YouTube podcasts, listen to audiobooks while I'm making. And sometimes, especially if I'm sitting down and doing a crafty project and watching someone doing a crafty project, I am heavily influenced by what they're doing and showing and, showcasing. I'm knitting and I'm thinking, oh, that sewing project looks amazing. I should sew. I wish I could sew like that. Or the opposite. And at one time it was bad because that would also make me want to go buy a lot of things, put simply. I think I'm responding to what I see on the screen as, oh, that looks fun or enjoyable or new or pretty. And I immediately want to be part of that thing instead of the right here thing. I'd like to be more conscious of that. That's one that I definitely will reflect on, and I think the better in that scenario for me would be either changing up what my input is while I'm making, or just observing that want feeling and letting it pass by as a thought. And not always feeling like I need to act on it and switch crafts or buy something. This one says, I like metrics and milestones. Yes. Yes. I like measurements. I like quantitative goals. I've written in very tiny print, using up my stash. I'd like to know how much. Okay. That clarifies it even for me. So I know that this year I will be focused on working with materials I already own and stash shopping, stash diving, returning to things that are here in my creative space. And a couple of times when I've gone back to my stash and I think, okay, my goal is to use that all up, one of my next thoughts is, I sure would love to know how much I used up. It's how I'm motivated. Are you motivated that way too, or does something else work for you? I like the metrics of it. I've used 100 grams, 1,000 grams. I emptied a bag of yarn. Yeah, I do like those, and I like the feeling of achieving that. Sometimes that helps me when I'm setting a goal. So I'll say for 30 days, I'm going to do the following. Or today I would like to spend X minutes or X hours doing this thing. I just like that box. Tangent. When my husband and I go walking together, he is out for the walk. He's there for the experience. He's looking around. We're having good conversation. And sometimes we go a mile, sometimes we go 3 miles. It's about the walking for him. For me, it's about, did we go a mile or did we go 3 miles? There's some type A overachiever remnants in there, I think. And then I have written the last two. My interests have a short shelf life. I'm going to put a shame-free zone on that one too. I am not going to invite any shame around that or apology. My interests have a short shelf life. Squirrel. I get into things, I get way into things, and then I get way into other things. From time to time, I want to change that about myself. I admire people who are monogamous makers or who are so skilled at a particular craft that they can really dive in and spend a long time with it. It is not in my nature to stay on a thing for longer than my interest allows. I'm going to let that one be. Yeah. And the final one that I've written down just says pastime or purpose. Pastime or purpose. Is my making a pastime or is it for a purpose? I could choose to let that be super heavy, and at times that need for a decision of one or the other has been heavy. But today, in this moment, I'm going to take that in as something I'm working through. I don't always approach my making as this joyous oasis of an experience where I'm just happy to be doing it and passing the time doing it. I don't. I honestly don't. Sometimes I have this heavy feeling of, why am I doing this? Why am I making cold weather wear and I live in a hot place? Why am I trying to call back to fiber traditions that are not necessarily my heritage? Why am I spending money and time on this particular thing? That heaviness has come from time to time. And I don't get to just settle into making for making's sake. I feel that whatever I'm doing should have some purpose. And the purpose should be known to me at that moment. That's the other element, is not just that it's purposeful or useful, but that its plan is part of the why. Does that make sense? So that consideration of whether or not I'm making as a pastime or I'm making as a purpose is a total up and down roller coaster reflection. And I don't know that, I do know neither one of those is the right answer. It doesn't have to be an either or, and it never is an either or situation. I'm deciding not to assign one of those reasons to my making. And I've written it down, I think, mostly because I just think about it a lot. Plain and simple. So friends, once again, I feel I've shared what I wanted to, and I hope that you have had a good time here in this space. I am very, very thankful that you've come back to be with me. I look forward to our continued conversation. I'm thankful for you individually, and I'm thankful for you, the collective. Things will be as good as they can. In the meantime, let's enjoy what is. I'll see you next time. Thanks for being here. Bye for now. Mwah.